call to order the June 14th, 2018 regular meeting of the Peters Township Planning Commission. Ed, roll call.
Mr. Berlotto.
Here.
Mr. Salepis.
Here.
Mr. Magrino.
Here.
Mr. Smith.
Here.
Mr. Wiley. Here. Mr. Salepis. I'm sorry, Cartafilis.
Here.
And Mr. Mills will not be here.
Can I get a motion to approve the May 10th, 2018 regular meeting minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of the May 10th.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Reports and correspondence, Ed?
None.
Any site plan subdivisions filed for review?
One simple one-lot subdivision on Bower Hill Road, Champion Capital final plan.
Any changes to the agenda?
No.
Any audience comments for items not on tonight's agenda? Seeing no old business, first item's new business, the Planning Commission recommendation, preliminary plan of Hamlet Springdale Phase 7, Buckingham Drive.
We have Mike Wetzel here tonight. He's representing Benjamin Marcus Homes. He'll go into detailed presentation. I'm going to hit some of the high points briefly, and then Mike will walk you through the plan. Benjamin Marcus Homes, LLC, is owner and developer of the Hamlet Springdale Plan. They're seeking Township approval for the preliminary plan for Hamlet Phase 7. This is a 14.55 acre property. It's under agreement. It's currently owned by the Ondeco and Adams families. The property borders phases 2 and 3 of the Hamlet of Springdale plan. This property is zoned low-density residential, and it's included in our conservation CR overlay district. They're proposing to use the CR overlay option. It's 21 lots ranging from 0.2 acres to 0.33 acres. I'll let Mike go through the details of the total lots, density, open space. Is that part of your presentation?
Yes, it is.
I want to point out that this request for preliminary plan approval does come with a request for a modification from our subdivision and land development regulations. In our subdivision and land development regulations, there's a stipulation that cul-de-sacs cannot exceed a length of 600 feet. They're proposing I'll call it a loop. It's not a true cul-de-sac. It's a
Oversized loop.
Oversized loop?
Mm-hmm.
That is, and I made a mistake in my report. It's 1,000 feet from Buckingham Drive to the end, and therefore they're requesting a modification from our 600-foot rule. The reason for that, there's steep topography, a 35% plus slope to get that road down to Sienna Trail. Requires extensive grading, a lot of earth, a lot of tree removal, etc. In addition to that, there is already an access to Bower Hill Road as part of Phase 3 of the Hamlet of Springdale plan. And the Hamlet of Springdale plan has an access point to Springdale, an access point to Bower Hill, and at some point in the future, it's designed to connect back up to Springdale, so there will be 3 ways in and out of this plan. So staff's recommending, as part of our recommendation for the preliminary plan approval, that we do recommend that the modification be approved to allow that loop street to be greater than 600 feet in length. They're meeting all our open space requirements. Mike will go into that. Stormwater is being handled with an existing basin that's already been constructed in Phase 2 of the Hamlet plan. We always like to not create new ponds and use existing ponds, so they're doing that. There's public sanitary sewer service available to the Hamlet Phase 7 plan. They are working on their DEP planning module approval, and Peters Creek Sanitary Authority's engineers are looking at the sanitary sewer layout. This project is subject to traffic impact fees for each lot. There will be a $1,386 traffic impact fee that will have to be paid. At at the time of building permit, and the proposed homes will be different than what was built in phases 1 through 5 of the hamlet. They're a little smaller, 2,500 to 3,400 square feet, and they're in the 450 to 650 range. And with that, I will conclude my comments and let Mr. Westwood walk the Planning Commission through the preliminary plan.
Just one note, as PV is the engineer, I'll be abstaining for this discussion.
Thank you, Ed. Good evening. Once again, my name is Mike Wetzel with Victor Wetzel Associates, and here representing Benjamin Marcus Homes. We're here tonight for the conditional use for the CR zoning preliminary plans for Hamlet Phase 7. Now, in regard to what Ed mentioned, the Hamlet Phase 7 is located here in blue. Is about 15 acres in size, and it's located in the CR overlay zone. Once again, with Bower Road along and through here, Sienna along and through this section. And as you can go through, kind of, I'll say, as the neighborhood plan, this is once again Phase 7 with the proposed site located right along and through here, Sienna Trail, Bower Hill, Springdale. And when you look at the number of phases that have come through for Benjamin Marcus Homes, with the first phase through second phase, continued through here to the third phase and fifth phase, and then I think within the last year, the Phase 6 has been approved over and along and through this section of the property. Now, in regard to the site, as I said, it's approximately 15 acres. Access would occur off of Buckingham Road along and through here. There's an existing detention facility located right along through this section, which will be expanded in regard to this phase as well, but as Ed mentioned, utilizing an existing detention facility. You can see that there are existing homes located along this portion of the property with the access occurring right along and through here. Combination of really some evergreen trees within the site, wooded areas and through here, and an existing home that has access off of Sienna Trail through this section of the property. That house will be raised in the development of Hamlet Phase 7. In regard to the topography, we have a high point that takes place within the site through here. Falls down to a valley where we have a drainage way and a series of wetlands that occur along through this section. This is also where the existing sanitary sewer is, and this extends up into the other phases. Once again, the existing detention facility through this section. Also, the site falls in elevation along and through here with a drainage way that occurs along parallel to Bower Hill Road, and then once again, it also falls down to Sienna Trail. The dark contours are 10-foot contour intervals. The lighters are a 2-foot contour interval. Now, in regard to the proposed CR plan, once again, we're looking at a 21-lot conservation or 21-lot CR plan associated with about 65-foot wide lots. Access would occur right along and through this section, occur within the plan in an oversized looped area. You can see the orange area, the lot areas, and the green bright area is the overall open space. Within the plan, we have a gross open space of 7.9. When you take away some of the existing or proposed detention area, a lot that will occur in through here, will be at 7.5 acres of open space, or 50% of the overall site in regard to the overall site area. In regard to the utilities, once again, with the site occurring, we have the high point really happening here at the oversized looped section. All utilities will fall down storm-wise to go into the stormwater detention through here. Backyard storm sewers that will go to the detention facility and through this section. And the sanitary will be extended along the roadway along through this section and along this area. So all utilities will be extended into the site underground, similar with all the other phases of the hamlet through this area. Now, in regard to the site, we also really do have within that central loop area, an open space section through here, the previous plan. We do have crosswalks and a pavilion, gazebo actually that will occur right along and through here as part of the green space part of the overall site. Now, as Ed mentioned, we are looking for one modification, and that's in regard to section 385-37 L1 in regard to cul-de-sac length, maximum shall not exceed 600. Now, once again, our number here does show 1,400, but really when you look at the past plan, that 1,400 took all the way around and occurred all the way around this loop. If you come along and through here, it's a little bit less than 1,000 to get to this point. As we said, we kind of created the oversized loop through this particular plan. But really what we're doing is looking for that modification to allow that extension because topography-wise, it's not possible to get down to Sienna Lane because of the topographic issues. So when we look at that, if we look in between this area, we have about a 74-foot elevation change that occurs from here down to Sienna Trail Road along and through this section. So if we would put a road in, that'd be about a 22% road grade. So it really isn't feasibly possible. And as we kind of showed with the one map, we do have a considerable number of other, I'll say, ways out of the hamlet plan. So it makes an ideal sense to really lessen the disturbance in regard to grading and kind of create more of a, I'll say, a private neighborhood cul-de-sac, but with a more of an oversized cul-de-sac and a green space within the plan. In regard to the landscape plan, we'll have the required number of street tree plantings within the center area, once again highlighting the gazebo located here at the intersection. We also are providing buffer areas along the property line through this section and along through this area. Now, one thing in regard to this plan, we do have this existing lot for lot 302, which does have an existing house. They'll gain additional property area by the right-of-way through this section. Mark Hoskins has had several conversations with the property owner in regard to this plan. Actually, he's very excited to have more side yard space. So he's very aware that this plan is going to take place in regard to what he's going to achieve through this section, as well as knowing that this property would be somewhat developed into the future. But once again, we have the required buffer areas along Santa Trail as well as along the existing lots. And then we also have large areas of existing trees that take place in topographic sections within the site. When we look at the CR zoning versus Hamlet 7, the uses you're allowed single-family detached. We're using single-family detached. There is no minimum lot size, but our minimum lot size is 8,714. The minimum lot width is allowed to be 50. We're at 65. Our front yards will be 20-foot minimum, 25-foot max. Rear yards will be 20-foot, meeting the requirements, as well as the side yards of 7.5 feet on each side. Maximum building height will be the 37 feet high. And then in regard to the density you're allowed in regard to where we are, 2 dwelling units per acre or 1.4 dwelling units per acre. And we're required to have 25% open space. As I mentioned, we have 7.5 acres of open space for 50% of the site. And we did show the buffers along the collector streets. So as I said, this is when you look at the overall, say, master plan for the hamlet with phase 7 occurring along and through this section. Once again, access is going to occur out along and through this side, access over along and out and through this area. So we're here tonight seeking preliminary plan approval for hamlet phase 7 for 21 CR lots associated with this plan. Glad to answer any questions the board have. We did receive comments from Mr. Zook in regard to staff comments. We had no concerns with all items that we can address with the revised submittal after hopefully recommendation from the Planning Commission to go in front of council.
And,
yes, sir.
Did the traffic impact fee, is it grandfathered under the old rate, or
It works. They are entitled to the fee that was in place when they filed their plan for review.
Okay.
Any new plans being filed
So from that point forward.
have to use the new fee, which is $1,500 instead of $1,386.
Yes, sir.
Between lots 710 and 711, there's a space in between. Is that for possibly a future road there?
Oh, no, it won't be for a future road. In fact, that's too narrow. That's just more of an open space access.
The cluster mailbox requirement that all new developments have to have Peters. We need to think about where that can be and design it so that folks can easily access it and not walk the road.
Sure.
I'll make that a, I didn't,
Yeah, I was going to ask you.
I didn't include that as a condition, but I want that added.
Not a problem.
Keep forgetting about the fact that
We'll add,
anything development-
we'll add our cluster location in regard to when we do our next
That would be
submittal.
number 12, right?
Correct.
What's the roadway cross-section? Is that sidewalks both sides of this?
What we have in regard to sidewalks, really because we don't have any frontage of any lots associated on this side, we do have a sidewalk located along the entire length of this side all the way through. But one of the conditions on staff's comment is to provide, I believe, a sidewalk within the loop, correct, Ed? And we'll add
And
that.
we can modify that condition. The preliminary and final plans include sidewalks on both sides of the loop, is what I meant by
Yes.
this.
So that's what I'm saying. And that's that loop. We'll add sidewalks in through here, but we have sidewalks really on one side all the way along through here, and we'll add that.
And you say there'll be a crosswalk there?
Yeah, we'll have two crosswalks located right along through here.
Okay.
What percent grade is that street? Do we know?
If I recall right offhand, it's,
Thomas, do you remember?
I believe it's under 5%. It's probably closer to about 6%.
Any other commission comments? Any audience comments? All right. Any motion?
I'll make a motion.
Oh, hold on 1 second. And do we need to make two motions? One for the plan and one for the modification, or just, can we do one? Can we do both?
I think we could do one, include the planning commission's opinion on the modification in the motion.
I have another comment. This is the style homes are different than, these are more craftsman type style homes, is that what is the?
Well, if I do recall, in Phase 6, there were somewhat of the same type of lots, 65-foot wide lots, and really a lot of those would be used as was done in that Phase 6 as this Phase 7 area.
And we've already been through that, that's why I wanted to, you said somebody, I don't know if it was Ed or your comment, said that it was going to be a different style.
Yeah, the majority of the hamlet does have more of a larger lot. In Phase 6, they did get into a little bit smaller lot, which is also occurring here in Phase 7, which is permitted under the CR.
I'd like to make a motion that the planning commission recommend Hamlet Springdale Phase 7 preliminary plan, including a recommendation to extend the cul-de-sac to the proposed length stated therein, adding a 12th condition that the cluster mailboxes are not interfering with traffic.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good luck.
Seeing no other new business, add anything to the planning portion of the meeting?
Yeah, I want to bring up one thing that has come up recently, and it's dealing with a Waters project, which is a PVE project as well. The Waters project at the corner of Valley Brook and Friar Lane, the 124-unit senior living, we discovered that their underground parking area for residents is designed with 9-foot wide by 18-foot long stalls with a 24-foot wide two-way aisleway That 9 by 18 does not meet our 10 by 20 requirement, and they are going to the zoning hearing board in July and requesting a variance. Just wondering, and those stalls are for just the individuals that live in that facility, that it's not for any customers to park in.
And I would think also people that work there, right?
People that work there probably as well, but it's not for visiting public or anyone else. So the question for the planning commission is, how do you feel about that? Our rule is 10 by 20. They are seeking a variance to go 9 by 18.
Do they
Very
lose
restrictive.
spots? Do they lose spots?
They
if
lose
go 10?
spots. The building would have to be, the footprint of the building would have to be enlarged in order to accommodate 10 by 20. So as a staff, we don't have a big problem with it. Need to know what planning commission's opinion is.
This is not with respect to this project, but as working on other projects with their parking garages, 9 by 18 is more than ample what I've seen. Typically, the 18-foot depth gives you 24, 18 gives you a total of a 60-foot bay, which has been more than ample on several parking garages in downtown Pittsburgh. We're actually there at 8.5 wide by 18.
They're proposing 24, two-way out, 9 by 18.
So wait a minute. So between the parking bays, what was it originally thought to be? Was it 24?
It's
staying 24?
staying 24. It's just they want to narrow those spaces to 9 by 18 as opposed to 10 by 20. Well, there's pillars in the way, there's equipment, there's the footprint of the building would have to be enlarged in order to go to 10 by 20.
What we see is those suburban communities, Cranberry, Peters Township, that may have your Suburbans, your excursions, your larger vehicles, sometimes need the 10 by 20, but there's a lot of municipalities that are not 18.
I want to point out that all their surface parking meets the 10 by 20.
I mean, my feeling is as long as they keep the 24-foot aisle width, I don't really have a problem with that.
What's the clearance height in there?
Let's see, it's 14 plus, like 13 something.
Oh, so the height is
Height
absolutely
is
no
not a
issue at
problem.
all.
It's
What's the trade-off in spaces if you went from 9 to 10?
they lose 30 plus spaces in that garage.
And they had a significant surplus of what they're required to have,
They
correct?
did. They were way over, and I don't have the exact number. They were way over the requirements.
So why would they have to make the building bigger? Why can't they go, I'm not saying either way, but they went 10 or 20, and they had a big surplus. Why did they have to make the building bigger?
The footprint of the building does not accommodate that 20 feet
because
on
of
both sides.
Ed, is there any, has there been any thought given to a mix of both sizes based upon Rocco's comment about larger vehicles? And if you can at least squeeze a few 10 by 20s and then do the rest 9 by 18, then you could have a lottery or, for people who have a
Well, you have a
bigger
space that
car.
says large vehicles, kind of thing.
Well, you're saying, Ed, that the exterior is all 10 by 20, exterior parking?
All exterior is, anyone visiting the site with a big vehicle like that will be parking in a 10 by 20 space.
But a resident who would want to park inside, underneath the building,
I will ask them that.
I was going to say to that point, I mean, it's not a common thing to see compact car
Right.
spaces.
Right.
If they added a number of compact car spaces, and then would they be able to mix and have the larger spaces that they small,
Possibly.
at least a handful.
That would require less than 9-foot wide space,
Yeah,
I would think.
I would think so as well.
Is the depth getting them? It sounds like the depth of the 2-foot additional depth.
That's what hurt.
Yeah. So you have a 20-foot space, they want to shorten that to 18, which is 4 feet of the entire building, right? Because
Correct.
you're setting these up, so every time they have a bay,
I don't really
it's
have
4
a
feet.
problem with the depth.
Yeah, the 18.
Do they have any more room for the cartway? Can they be 26 foot, or are they right on 24?
Right.
They are right on
Yeah.
24,
It's probably
18, and 18.
It's probably working with, I think, candidly, I don't know much about the project, but I think it's probably working with the structure. That's what we run a lot into with the podium-style buildings.
Yeah, there's-
So that structure comes down, it's a certain distance, and if you expand those distances further, over 60 feet, structural members get taller, clearances go up, building heights get taller, and it's kind of a cascade.
This is our first underground parking facility in Peters Township. And I truly think that we should, and I'll be probably recommending it at some point, that we consider amending our ordinance to allow inside
Modification.
garage parking to be 9 by 18.
And I would guess wherever the columns come down, there's probably a little extra space between
There is.
the one parking space and the other parking space. So in the front and the back, you may be a little pinched, but where the doors open, you have a little bit more in between if it's 3 or 5, whatever any space in between.
There is, there's a gap where those columns come down, it's like no man's, it's not part of any
Right.
space.
Right.
So is the planning commission, am I hearing the consensus is favorable?
Allow the modification.
I'd like to see if they could do it with a mix of the widths. I'm not concerned about the depths. If they want to stay at 18 feet, that doesn't concern me.
Thank you.
What concerns me is like you get, that facility is for older individuals, people trying to get out of cars. If you squeeze it, if they're, not to say that the 9-foot squeezes them down, but
You're trying to get in there with a walker,
yeah,
that kind of thing. That's where it
you're trying to
becomes an
get your
issue.
grandma out with a walker.
Well, there are, in that underground parking, there are handicap spaces
Right.
as well. That meet all handicap spaces.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
Thank you, that's all I have.
All right, if there's nothing else, we adjourn.